Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing? Good morning to Andy Thornton, who has just said 998 and counting. Yeah, 998th Breakfast show this morning. Unbelievable. All of the stuff that goes on around this, like the intro that we've just played and other things. Tomorrow, last time you get to see them. After that, they'll be gone. They will be gone. Good morning to Gary Muirhead as well, who has just joined us. Chris Ford is here as well. Morning. Almost made the start of the program. Well, Chris, you're getting closer and closer. But good morning to both of you guys. And also good morning to Jim Turner, who was here literally as the show began. Morning, everyone. And Andy Darvell, and Ken Hatter have just arrived as well. So let me press their respective buttons. There's Ken's, and hopefully when that clears, come along now, come along. Oh, well, there's Andy's. 24 years ago today, I was working from home. I've been working from home for the best part of 30 years, I suppose. Yeah, 24 years ago today, I was working from home, and I was on a journalist's chat room, pre-Facebook Messenger and all that kind of thing. So I was on and it was just playing in the background, and somebody put on there that just a very quick news bulletin that an aeroplane had flown into the World Trade Center in New York. First thought was, yeah, it's going to be one of these tiny little sort of single-seater planes, and somebody's gone awry or something like that. But in the old house where I used to work, I had a TV behind me, so I flicked it on and I carried on working. And I was actually watching live when the second plane hit, and me and the TV reporters and everybody else, I think, actually all realised at the same time that this wasn't just an accident. This was something far more serious. Bit of a defining moment in some ways. Yeah, but I've since described it as kind of like my JFK moment. I wasn't around for JFK being assassinated, but I was certainly there for that. And I do remember thinking, well, I desperately wanted to get my wife and my children home. They were all at school. Wife was collecting them. Wanted to get them home. I don't know quite why I wanted them, together, but it did feel like the world had kind of pivoted in a very, very bad direction that day. So I desperately wanted to get them home. And I do remember thinking, I cannot imagine, there are people that I don't like. There are people I fundamentally disagree with. But at no point have I ever disagreed with somebody so vehemently that I think they should die as a result. And I do remember thinking that, as I say, 24 years ago today. Last night, most evenings now, around about 9 o'clock in the evening, I sit down to watch a live stream by a former CNN news reporter, guy called Jim Acosta over in the States. And I was watching live last night, and he was, chatting away, and he received a notification that a guy called Charlie Kirk had been shot. Now, Charlie Kirk, for those that don't know, I'm sure he's all over the news today. I haven't had a chance to look. But Charlie Kirk was, very outspoken, right-leaning. I think he had a podcast and a radio show and everything else. Very much in the Donald Trump mold, and was clearly a MAGA man. So he and I, politically and everything else, were diametrically opposed. But yeah, he was shot last night, and I, as I say, carried on watching Jim Acosta as the news gradually filtered through that not only had he been shot, but he'd actually been killed. As I say, diametrically opposed in our opinions, but somebody has killed a 31-year-old man, husband, father, because they disagree with him. I've got the same feeling today that I had 24 years ago, that the fact that the world is very, very divided right now. And listen, everybody's entitled to their political views and so on. One of my concerns is what all of that means for us here on this side of the pond. I think it's very, very obvious that the Reform Party are, borrowing from, the Donald Trump playbook, which may well see them get into power. Um, and regardless of your stand, your stance on, their economic policy and everything else, they are a divisive bunch. Um, and it's quite easy to look at at what happened to Charlie Kirk and think, oh, it's an American thing. They with their lack of gun laws, that's going to happen. When you've got more guns than you've got people, that's going to happen. But don't forget, 2016, one of our MPs, Joe Cox, was murdered. Labour MP was murdered. And just to prove that these things do swing both ways, in 2021, David Amos was killed, Tory MP. Not, I realise it's got absolutely nothing to do with our usual fare on these shows, but it does. Listen, I'm 60. I don't have to worry about these things too much. I mean, aside from the fact that I'm going to the States next month, and it does set the old alarm bells jangling somewhat. Um, but I do wonder what world my grandchildren will inherit. And the very fact that we lost best part of 3,000 people through divisiveness on 9/11, 2001, and here we are 24 years later to the day. We got any better? Do you feel any more united as a species? No, me either. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the chat. Let's have a look. So Dan Cullen was here, then he was gone, then he's back. Good morning, Dan. Lou Carney is here. Probably packing her bags for plant works. Gary says, looking forward to the 1000th show on Monday. Remember the 500th show with everything changed? I remember you deleting the old format. Yeah, what you can't see behind the scenes, the thing that I'm looking at there, used to be quite limited. You could only have so much stuff, video clips and everything else. I wouldn't say it's unlimited, but I've yet to find the limit. Um, so I've got, but I can tell you, I have already started to move the current format down the page, and I'm putting the incoming format further up the page. There will be a crossover come Monday. Dan Cullen saying, "How are we all? Can't wait for the 1000th show." The 1000th show. There you are. Mark Whiting is here as well. Andy Thornton said, "It's the hypocrisy. They shout freedom of speech as long as you don't, as long as you agree with me." David Amos is a good friend of mine. He went to my daughter's christening. He's sorely missed. Wow, that does strike close to home. That does strike close to home. I've met a few MPs along the way, one reason or another, but I've never been particularly close to any of them. And ultimately, just doing their job. Same as policemen and women that are murdered in the line of duty, just doing their job. As I say, I just cannot. There are people that I disagree with on every single level, political, religious, spiritual, whatever. I just disagree with them every scrap of my being. But I can't ever imagine disagreeing so forcefully that I want them dead. And as I say, Charlie Kirk didn't know him, caught a few bits and pieces that he did over time, didn't agree with him, but 31 years old, entire life ahead of him, lives behind a widow and a couple of kids. Luke Carney says 12 days. We should have a 12 days of plant works. On the 12th day of plant works, my true love gave to me and a JCB. I can't fill in the gaps, people. You're better at this than I am. Jim Turner says the CIA don't want a like peace. There's no profit in it. The more you look at the world, the more you do wonder just how much of this is just kind of maybe I've become a cynic, but literally before it was announced that Charlie Kirk had actually died last night, he'd been shot. It didn't look bad. It didn't look that good, rather. It looked very, very bad indeed. But I remember sitting there thinking, how will that be played? Obviously, Donald Trump and his people are um, divisive. That's what with their ICE agents and their deportations and all the things that go with it. And there was a bit of me that was sat there thinking, if he dies, which sadly he has, and if it turns out that the person that killed him was black or brown or from the left, America is going to get a whole lot worse. I haven't actually had a chance to look at the news today. I don't know whether they've actually apprehended the guy that responsible or the woman responsible. I don't actually know. But yeah. Dan says we have to agree to disagree. Yeah, the political parties aren't divisive. The people above government and above the law are the divisive ones. Trump must be the only one that's bulletproof. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If there were a god, yeah. Well, as I say, I mean, I despise Donald Trump. Every single ounce of my being despises every single ounce of his being. But I wish he'd just shuffle away. Just piss off. Not die. I don't want him dead, just piss off. Anyway, people, that's got nothing whatsoever to do with our usual fare, so, should we crack on? I think we probably should. Without further ado, I'm gonna roll the intro. I'm gonna post the question of the day, and I'm gonna get the proper show on the road. It is Thursday, the 11th of September. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, we're getting up close with the latest mini excavator from Develon. We're lifting big things with Sennebogen, Caterpillar spearheads the California wildfire recovery, and we're headed back down under for more great action with the fine folks at Kobelco. Plus, in my morning monologue today, change or be changed. Construction's conundrum. Hopefully I won't have to say that again because I clearly stumbled over it. Gary Muirhead has asked a very, very appropriate question. Question of the day: will it be in the new format, or is it time to look for a new job? No, I think actually the one bit of the show that is staying is the question of the day. It is I realise it's tried and tested, and I do know that sometimes we either struggle for a question or we repeat ourselves, which I'm not overly bothered about. But no, I like the way it looks. I like the interaction it promotes. It's staying. Pretty much everything else is going away. Really looking forward to even things like, I don't know if I can show you this now. Let's have a look. I don't know if I can. No, I can't, unfortunately. I mean, even things like we have a background that plays behind all the stuff that we do, and every once in a while, when I sort of go into a smaller frame, there's a black and orange screen behind. Even that's going. Everything is going away. Question today. We've had a great answer from Ken Hatcher, which I will get to in just a moment. I do need to remind you though of that question of the day, and it looks like this. Yeah, question of the day today comes from our resident quizmaster, Gary. You've still got a job for the foreseeable future, Mr. Gary Muirhead. And his question is this: who or what do you think of when you think of success? I was really really hoping to come up with something profound for this, something that didn't just relate with wealth. I wanted to, have you thought of how successful this person is, even though, they're not particularly rich, but it's really hard. I do think we live in an age where success is measured in pound notes and dollar bills. So on that basis, when I think of success, I probably think of someone, well, Tom Cruise or Stephen King. And I think one of the things that they've both got in common is they've both obviously got more money than they're ever likely to spend. But they keep doing what they do because they seem to love it. You see Tom Cruise at a movie premiere. It's what is he, 60, 61, 62, and just loves what he does. That to me that's success. But what about you? What about you? What do you think of when you think of success? I can tell you that Ken Hatcher, not surprisingly in this industry, thinks of JCB. Yeah. I'm sure I say this every single time we mention the success of JCB. The letters above the door read JCB, Joseph Cyril Bamford, the founder, who set the company on its path. But, and I want to do the same demonstration I do every single time we talk about this, Joe Bamford built a company that big, huge, but that big. Lord Bamford, Anthony Bamford, has made it that big. I'm not saying the company should be renamed, far from it, but I do think it's worth recognising just what Lord Bamford, Sir Anthony Bamford, Tony Bamford, call him what you will, what he's achieved. And yes, that does very much speak of success to me. Jim Turner, that's easy to explain. Success is having the time and money to do all the things you want to do. Not a bad way to look at it. I do remember my mate, sadly no longer with us. When I'm just kicking around, how rich would you like to be? And his definition of being wealthy was, I'd like to be able to eat out every single night. Never have to cook again, just eat out every single night. I mean, if I did that, I would be as fat as all bulls, but I'm not a bad one. Dan says, I never look at success. My success is my health and able to get out of bed, get to work and loving every minute of it. Not a bad way. Not a bad way to look at life. And predictably, but perfectly explainable. Question of the day, Marco Lorini. Not only did he inherit the company, but he's improved it. Yes, he has. Yes, he has. And when you think about it, I'm sure it came out in when I was talking about him, all kind of by fluke. He was very much a sort of hands-on engineer, to the degree where he was working a lathe and something went awry and the lathe broke his arm. So while he was laid up, his brother gave him a computer and said, you best go and do something with that. And what he did with that was start designing the sort of equipment that Lorini make today, and Lorini on the world map. It's weird how life works out, isn't it? So yes, any more for that. Anybody else like to say who or what, even what, not necessarily a person. Is there a thing that you think that if I had that or if I'd accomplished that, that would be success? Let me know in the chat. While you're doing that, I'm going to crack on with this. Those very fine folks at Develon have a new mini excavator. Rather than me telling you about it, I'll show it to you.
Meet the Develon DX27, where compact size meets unstoppable power. With advanced digging, breakout force, and swift cycle times, this machine is built for productivity.
We've had, well, let me just show you this. That's from Dan. Great little tool, those DX27. Totally agree. We've had a couple more responses on our question of the day about what defines success. Let's go with this one first. Andy Thornton says, how to think about this one. Success is getting up each day, being closer to a worthy goal. Achievement of that goal is just a reward for all those successful days. Very good. We've got a really profound one actually coming from Chris. I'll come to that in just a moment. Jim says, my personal idea of success, having my machines with my company name written on them, working on my own projects. It's not a bad aim at all. But this from Chris, remarkably profound. And, bearing in mind how we started the show with talk of 9/11 and Charlie Kirk and all that kind of thing, maybe profound is what we need today. So Chris will take it away. He says, just remember that God doesn't pay his bills with money. Is success being revered by your fellow compatriots by building an empire or an act of kindness that bears fruit? Yeah, it's an interesting one. I have to be honest, I've met some very wealthy, some very successful people over the years, but those little acts of kindness are the ones, not necessarily from people that are wealthy or anything, those are the ones that stick with you, aren't they? I don't remember thinking, oh, I really like so and so. He's got a load of he's got a load of wedge, as we used to say. I do remember thinking, what a nice bloke. That'll do. That would do me. Yeah, and Chris, bringing things full circle, he went profound and then he came back to being the usual Chris Ford. He said, if God paid his bills with money, I'd still be poor. Yes, as would I. Very well said, Chris, says Dan Cullen. Fantastic stuff. Listen, what an audience we have. We're going Sennebogen in just a moment, but first we need a bit of word. Well, we need a word from our sponsor. Andy Thornton says, I've written that down, Chris. Love that. There you are. See? Chris Ford and his public service. Who would have thought it? Now, I promise you some Sennebogen, and Sennebogen you shall jolly well have. You've got 5 minutes for this, so sit back, enjoy.
Cooperation with Sennebogen has a long tradition in our company. We have always appreciated the individual approach, fair negotiation, and meeting deadlines. Their machines then qualitatively match that we need for our work.
This is one of the greatest innovations of Sennebogen in the complete history. Today, I am more than happy to present you the Sennebogen 830G at one of its first operations at the key account customer TSR. My name is Cornelius Strobel, and I am more than happy to show you today this brand new machine. One of the most obvious innovations of this machine is the new 10-inch display. Via this display and the Sencon control system, you can adjust the machine completely to your needs. You can adjust the functions of the joystick just whatever you would like to have. Also, the speed of the machine can be adjusted accordingly to your needs. All hydraulic functions are just as quick as you want to have them.
The machine is unique in that there is a great focus on operation comfort, both during the operation of the machine itself and during its further maintenance or refilling of operation fluids.
The G280 cabin elevation allows you a unique eye level and a perfect all-around view about your yard. It is extremely stable, so the driver has a very comfortable operating place. The multi-circuit hydraulic allows you to reduce the fuel consumption significantly and therefore also reduces the CO2 emissions. We put a lot of focus on the user-friendliness on the machine. We put the driver in the focus of our new innovation. So for example, the refueling of the machine can be executed from the ground. There is no need for the driver to access the machine for refueling, which is a big comfort and of course a big safety plus, especially during bad weather conditions. Another very nice comfort feature for the driver is the battery main switch, which is now executed automatically. So the driver just switches off the machine and can leave the machine and go home. The rest is done automatically by the machine. We tried to make the life easier of the driver, so we added also a lot of assistance systems. So for example, now a brand new weighing system or a working area limitation. We make the life, the daily work of the driver safer and more comfortable. We also put a lot of focus on the after-sales during inventing this brand new machine. The diagnostic capability is unique for these machines. Just connect a laptop to your machine and then be able to repair it yourself or together with the help of your service partner. With the so-called SOTA, software over-the-air solution, we can update the machine that there is no downtime for you. The machine keeps on running and there is no need for any mechanic.
In general, we like to be involved in testing new developments in the field of engineering and mechanization. And when Sennebogen asked us for this cooperation, we didn't hesitate for a minute. We are successfully cooperated with Sennebogen for several years, and the synergy on this project was almost most of us.
Another very nice feature in this MaxCap 4 cabin is the automated climate control, which can also be steered via the 10-inch display. The Sennebogen 830G represents the beginning of a new generation of material handling machines. The user-friendliness, the assistance systems, everything is just put on the driver. So we really put the driver in the focus of our new machines.
Tímto typem bagru jde dělat při menších otáčkách stejně výkonnou práci jako se starším typem. Takže má menší spotřebu a provozní náklady jsou určitě nižší. Rád to, že má i menší spotřebu, jakože ekologičtější, bych řekl. Ten stroj je citlivý na ovládání. Dá se s ním dělat jemně i ohromně zlepšilo proti starému typu a je tichý vevnitř.
So let's move big things.
I know there was a bit of Czech language in that, but I thought it was worthwhile. I had a couple more comments. There's one from Dan, says, nice, love a good go on that. Chris Fraud says, never had a machine that's never had no downtime, ever, period. That's about the size of it. Jim Turner says, it's never money that impresses, it's how those that have it conduct themselves. Ain't that the truth? And then we've had, forgive me for being a little emotional about this, but two comments here that made my day. Absolutely made my day. You will know the story, and if you don't know the full story, you'll be able to read it come Monday, because I've written the story of how this show came into being. We've done a lot. I sit here and rant against the world and talk about mental health and gender inequality and all the issues facing the industry. But the thing that I'm most proud of with this little old show of ours is the fact that it has built this little village community. Chris Ford says, the thing I like about the show is the way we go totally off track, no pun intended, from demolition machines and work to something that makes me think. Jim Turner, on the same subject, says, just like a bunch of folk having a crack over a brew or a pint, that may be my single greatest achievement with this show. 1,000 shows in, and it's like a bunch of people having a natter. I'll take that. I will take that. I'm never, regardless of my feelings on the divisive nature of the world and all that, I'm never likely to change the world. But if I can, if people look back and say, he gave us somewhere to have a bit of a natter when I've finally hung up my hard hat, I'll take that. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. Well done. Andy Thornton, whose round is it? Well, since you mentioned it, Andy, it's yours. Tea, no sugar for me, please. Thank you very much. Right, okay, let's crack on. We've got a bit of Caterpillar coming up after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, there's a weird thing. I can't remember if this was something that happened while I was doing the show or just before. I think it was probably just before. Every once in a while, there are reports online about the likes of Caterpillar and JCB being guilty of war crimes. Okay, it's bullshit, but these things come up every once in a while. They've supplied machines to some hostile organization or hostile nation or whatever it might be, and they're being used to destroy homes in Gaza or whatever it might be, all of which is horseshit. We all know how machines are sold. JCB isn't phoning up Hamas and saying, do you fancy some backhoe loaders? It's all a bollocks. The thing that annoys me with that, apart from the fact that it's patently untrue, is the fact that nobody ever picks up on the stuff that manufacturers like JCB and Caterpillar and the others do in a positive way, like this.
Everyone was saying it was going to take decades before any of the rubble would be removed. Didn't matter. Jim and Caterpillar just jumped right in and helped us just get started. I was working in Haiti since 2006, before the earthquake, doing infrastructure works. Jim and I met when we were doing a lot of debris removal and taking down some of the schools and clearing out the roads so that there's more access for humanitarian assistance to the neighborhoods. Jim really was instrumental to teach us everything on how to do the heavy equipment work. Because of the fires, he was again the first person that I thought of, reached out to him, and Jim came down, and that was huge.
This was a Presbyterian church in the Palisades. The 40,000 square foot church was totally leveled by the fire except for main I-beams and some of the big concrete pillars and things like that. We're using the excavators to lay them on their side and then taking the torches and cutting them. We're taking all the burnt debris out. Having that excavator with a bucket and the thumb is just so much faster. If you was to drive around, there's probably 300 Cat excavators from 325 to 335 to 330s to 336s. So they're a valuable tool in a residential, commercial fire cleanup is what we're doing here in Palisades. In this type of application, and I'm going to go back to the storage water facilities that we just did for Altadena a couple of weeks ago, having that e-fencing that's in our excavators that we have now, so floor protect, ceiling protect, side-to-side protect, and wall protect, and also cab avoidance, that's proven to be very valuable. By setting up the floor protect in the machine, we were able to accomplish that task without doing any damage to the concrete floors, to the walls. It's very nice having the e-fencing in there. There's numerous safety features that, on all of our Cat products to make sure that operator goes back home at the end of the day.
The generosity of Caterpillar and Jim offering their, not just time, but skills. I mean, watching him not just help us do the procurement process to find a vendor, but also knowing sort of where we can optimize our money and time to do the work with the right types of equipment, with better methods and focus on safety. All those things has completely transformed us getting into the space here, even in our own backyards in Los Angeles. The most moving part that has really impacted me in seeing all of this is yesterday when we had people who lived here in the Palisades that were also our donors from CAA Foundation, having one of them say in tears just how touched she was that somebody like Jim, who's so far away, totally unaffected by this, would come down and help Angelinos to get back on their feet. It's just been such an incredible experience for us. We're so grateful for the skills, for the expertise, and for the equipment to be out here to help us do this work.
Now that film came from the Palisades in Los Angeles. There's a couple of guys I watch on YouTube called Colin and Samir. They basically talk about the kind of thing that I do, live streaming and podcasting and all that kind of thing. I've been following them for years. around about Christmas last year, one of them had just got married. Colin had just got married, and Samir had just had his first baby. And they got together just before Christmas at one of their houses, and they had their photograph done. New wives, new baby, and everything else. The two of them together, they've been together for years doing these podcasts and stuff like that. And they had their photograph done in front of a fireplace, roaring fire behind them, big fireplace. And there they are, new baby, new wife, and everything else, all sweetness and light. Both of them, a couple of months later, lost their homes in those Palisades fires. And when they went back, the only thing that was left standing of one of their houses was that fireplace, the fireplace in front of which they'd had their photograph taken. Yeah, Andy Darvell says big cleanup. It certainly is, and probably still ongoing. Great video that, says Dan Cullen. Good, we aim to please. What have we got? We've got one more coming, going down under just a moment, with Kobelco. So stick around after.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I do want to very quickly, I'll say very quick good afternoon to Peter McKenna, because you just said this afternoon. Well, that's what it feels like when I'm this late. Not a problem at all, Peter. You're welcome nonetheless. But I also want to say good morning over on Instagram to Bobcat Ireland. Bobcat Ireland. Can you see what I'm wearing here, fellas? Top of the morning to you. Top of the morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Yeah, as I say, one final film. We're going back down under with Kobelco, Australia, with this.
I'm Ryan McCusker, the branch manager of Civilies. I've just recently transitioned over from Silverstrand, the big brother of Civilies, and so I was the project manager with them for the last 7.5 years. We've been running Kobelco fleet now for probably the last 5 to 6 years. Marco actually came out at Gibson Island or Luggers Point to show us our first Kobelco machine that 5 or 6 years ago, which was a little 5-ton machine. Since then we've expanded the fleet. We've got up on around 20 Kobelco machines now through Marco and the guys at Bris Vegas.
G'day, I'm Marco from Bris Vegas Machinery. I am the sales representative for Bris Vegas Machinery. We are the Kobelco dealership for Southeast Queensland and Northern New South Wales. We also go up to Rockhampton and now Mackay just recently.
The relationship with Bris Vegas and Marco and the entire team there has been brilliant thus far. Absolutely no complaints, nothing's a problem. Everything can be solved quickly and easily, and they're very transparent to deal with. That's something that we pride ourselves on, is relationships, so it's a big thing to be fit to pick up the phone, call them at any time, and know you're going to get a resolution on any issues that you do have. So the Kobelco machines we have on this particular site at the moment is 238s, a 14 and a 23.5. The 238s that we have, you can see one in the background there now at the moment, very important on this site in particular because there's been a lot of rock encountered on site. So they've been breaking rock here for the last 2 to 3 months.
This is probably my favourite machine in the lot, along with the 235. So with the 380 XDLC, this is our heavy duty 38 tonner. It is a class leader. We offer this as our heavy duty spec standard. What that means is you'll get a machine with bump rails. It comes with a front OPG. It's got taller grouser plates. The idler housing and the travel motors are all gusseted from factory. It's got double length and double thickness rock guards on the inside of the dipper, so it is the most robust machine you can get from factory as our standard offering from Kobelco. Another key factor for these machines is majority of our Kobelco range run tier 3 engines, so there's no requirement for AdBlue and DPF. This is a critical thing when machines are working in remote locations or having to store additional fuels on site, and then you have to wait for machines to shut down correctly, otherwise the AdBlue can crystallize system. The 380XD, the 235s, the 135s are all tier 3 engines with no AdBlue and no DPF. The good thing with the 380SR is it's a big machine with obviously close to zero overhang, so there's no big counterweight on it. As you can see, with the height of it and the size of it, it comes in about 9 tonne. So you're going to be able to swing a big machine around, not have your overhang without sacrificing any stability or lift capacity for the operator.
So we've got two big massive breakers on both 38s, and they've been breaking for the last 3 months, and yeah, there's been no issues to date. The 38s are a beast, yeah.
So with this 380 SR you see behind me, and with all the machines that Sibley's purchased, they are spec'd up to the absolute top level. So they all come with 3D GPS on them, full systems. They come with auto grease systems on them. They've all got tilt hitches on them, a range of buckets, compaction wheels. So if you're looking to hire any machinery or need any jobs done, you rest assured these machines are checked out with everything. There's not a site these machines cannot go onto and a job they cannot perform.
They'll be utilised a lot with Sibley's and Silver Strand moving forward. The boys love getting into it, especially like I was saying before, these bigger machines, the boys love getting into them, and it's hard to get them out of it then. It's been brilliant, can't complain at all, no faults whatsoever. Excellent team, and I'd recommend them highly. And that's why we've continued to do business with them and will continue to do business with them in the future.
I want to say good morning to Tristan Mace, who's just joined us. He says, Kobelco do make a very good, comfortable machine. He also says, good morning, Mark, you old legend. Less of the old, if you don't mind. I don't know quite what happened there. Obviously, that was an Australian film, as Dan Cullen has rightly pointed out. There's a few down under vids recently, and there's more to come. The Aussies seem to like a video, and I'm all for it. But he did say that guy on that video sounds Irish. He did. You're right. Which kind of seemed to open the floodgates, because where are we? Obviously, I mentioned the fact that Bobcat Island were watching. Dan Cullen says, top of the morning to Bobcat Island. Then Garvin, mostly diggers, arrived, obviously from Ireland. I saw another one. Where the heck? Enda O'Doherty is here as well. Originally, I would assume, from Ireland. Is it National Irish Day or something like that? Everybody seems to have arrived. Garvin saying, I'd say some contractors would pay a reasonable environment tax to be able to opt for a Tier 3 engine in new machines, forgoing all the emissions packages and problems. I think you're pushing on an open door, as they say. Anybody else? Would you pay an extra bit of environment tax if you could stick to an older style machine? Jim Turner? I think I already know your answer. The Irish are everywhere, says Tristan Mays. No matter where you are in the world, you'll find an Irish bar. You will. You absolutely will. And a warm welcome, generally, which there you are. Andy Darvell says, my great-granny was Irish. Does that count? It does. Listen, that's the way the Irish work. You go and spend any time in New York, and you speaking to somebody who sounds like a native New Yorker. Come St. Paddy's Day, oh, man alive, they're as Irish as an Irish thing. They really are. Andy Darvell says, really, really like Kobelco, top machines. I couldn't argue with that at all. Peter McKenna, there you are, says, my father's family are from Cork. And there's Dan Cullen saying, welcome, Enda. Now, Peter McKenna, he did mention on the show yesterday that he has written and produced a song. You can buy it. You can buy it on iTunes or Apple Music, I think it's called these days. So I've had to have a bit of a rethink. Those that are here on a regular basis will know that I've got a button on my desk, and when I press it, it used to say, good morning, Peter, sick note, McKenna, because Peter has his health issues. Seemed a little unkind with hindsight, but we then replaced it because Peter he's good on a computer, and he goes and finds useful facts. So he became Peter, the king of copy and paste, McKenna. I've changed it again. Peter McKenna, I have a new button for you, and it reads thusly. There you are. Good morning, Peter, musical maestro McKenna. That's your new button, that right there. Andy Darvell says, get rid of AdBlue. The world would be a better place and a slightly nicer smelling place. Have you ever spilt AdBlue? I'm sure everyone spilt AdBlue. Isn't it horrible stuff to deal with? My wife's got a black car, partially hybrid, kind of, but it takes AdBlue. You put AdBlue in there, and I pulled the thing out a bit too quickly, and it spilt down the side. Thought I'd wiped it away. Came back the following day, and there was this like chalky residue. And man alive, Man alive, that took some getting rid of. What's that actually doing to your inner plumbings, I wonder? Garvin says, on the button. McKenna, sound fella, he says. There you are. Well done. That's it. That's it for show number 998. Well, the main part anyway. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before I, leap gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues, particularly given the opening today. It is the 24th anniversary of 9/11. We did have horrendous events in America last night. Our last night there yesterday afternoon. So, let's be nice to each other, eh? But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after. Let me just have a quick look in the chat, rather. Let's have any machine without AdBlue or DPF gets my vote. As I said, Garvin, you're pressing on an open door. That's the thing with AdBlue is you have to open up that vehicle to get the exhaust hot. Sorry, excuse me. Spray WD-40 on an AdBlue stain and wipe vigorously. There speaks the voice of experience. There's somebody that's cleared up an AdBlue spill in the past. Morning monologue coming up. It's weird, isn't it? For decades, centuries even, the demolition and construction industry has shaped the built environment. But now in 2025, the tables have turned. The demolition and construction industry is being shaped by the environment. The need to safeguard and protect the planet is the single most powerful force driving the sector. That desire has already given us electric machines, even if we've been a bit slow to adopt them. That same desire has also shifted us from a build, demolish, build cycle to a build, refurbish, refit, and only demolish if absolutely necessary cycle. It's forced us to develop homes and buildings that are more energy and thermally efficient than anything we could have previously imagined. It's pushed us to develop systems to monitor and manage equipment to squeeze every last ounce of performance out of every last litre of fuel. It's forced us to reconsider what we once viewed as waste and how that might be repurposed, recycled, and resold. Stewardship of the environment and the planet is now the starting point of every construction project. It's the benchmark that must be achieved throughout the construction, and it's the standard by which the finished structure will be judged, managed, and maintained. And all of that has happened in a relatively short space of time. That's not an evolution. We've all lived through a revolution. And that revolution is far from over. The road to net zero remains long, and there will be pitfalls, potholes, and diversions along the way. We still don't know how the cards will fall on the whole demolition versus deconstruction debate. And nobody, least of all the government, seems to have any idea how we will produce enough homes, how we will produce enough people to produce enough homes. So much change has happened. So much change is yet to come. And yet, there is much about the industry that vehemently and stubbornly refuses to develop or to evolve. We live in an age of always-on digital communication, and yet communication within the industry between client and contractor, contractor and subcontractor, employer and employee has barely progressed. The digital age has blessed us with online banking that allows us to digitally farm money across oceans and continents, but we still can't pay our bills on time. We can monitor and manage equipment remotely, and we can diagnose emerging problems before that problem becomes costly downtime. Yet machines still fail. We've got decades of data on all the risks and hazards that might potentially harm our workers. We know precisely the things that are most likely to injure, maim, and kill them. But accidents still happen. Fatalities still happen. We know that each near miss, each accident, and each fatality is a learning opportunity, a chance to make the industry safer, a chance to prevent someone else falling victim. But we don't. We keep them under wraps, away from prying eyes. We know that our workplaces are needlessly stressful, that mental health struggles permeate the sector, how those mental health issues cost lives and cost money. But instead of addressing the problem, we prefer to wait for those wounds to occur and to fester before applying a sticking plaster. We know we don't have enough young people coming into the industry to maintain current workloads, and we know we're not attracting enough to satisfy future demand. Yet we do virtually nothing to fix the issue. Instead, we rely upon recruitment methods that have barely changed since vocational careers were the only game in town for many school and college leavers. We know that our industry training regime doesn't produce competent workers, merely workers that have sat a test. But we stick by an industry training board that has failed consistently to make the necessary changes. We've continued to recognise cards that are not fit for purpose, that no one really trusts, and that are frequently and routinely forged or falsified. We know there's far too few women in the sector, but site after site, year upon year, we've failed to stamp out the misogyny that has perpetuated and proliferated within our industry. Through countless seismic and paradigm shifts, the demolition and construction industry has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to change, to adapt, and to overcome. And yet, with the future within reach, there are still countless, innumerable, and stubborn factors that anchor the industry to its past. It's weird, isn't it? An industry that shaped the environment is now being shaped by the environment. That shape is still shifting. At least some of it is. There you are. Really regret not calling this part Thought for the Day. I'm fairly sure that's been done before. How are we all doing today? I hope you're all fit and well. It is time for Chinwag. There's been a fair few houses skimmed using AdBlue. It all goes manky and has to come off again. Yeah, it's horrible stuff. And I know we've long since dispelled the myth that it's made out of pig urine, although it smells just as bad. But yeah, it's nasty stuff. Andy Thornton says there's nothing more constant than change. There is one thing more constant than change, and that is the construction industry's resistance to some parts of change. And you may have noticed that many of the things that we have changed, like making our homes and our buildings more energy and thermally efficient, there's money to be made there. You can charge more for insulation and solar panels and various other things. Just going back, I'm looking back at exactly what it was I said. Where are we? But all the things that are difficult, or all the things that we haven't done, are the things that cost money. Yes, I mean, bearing in mind, I mean, I do it with my wife. I do it with my kids as well. I've got a phone here. I've got a banking app on this phone, and I'll get a phone call from one of the kids that says, "Carl just bounced. Send us a tenner." It's there literally while they're holding their phone, and yet we live in an age within the demolition and construction industry where the guy that signs the checks isn't here. When was the last time anyone actually received a check? I actually found my old checkbook 6 months ago. Forgot they even existed. Completely forgot they even existed. And yet that's still a thing. The check's in the post. Why? Just send it. It makes no sense to me at all. We all resist change, says Andy Thornton. It's uncomfortable. We can't stop it. We can only delay it. The thing that frustrates me with this is the fact that there is so much potential. I had this conversation the other day on this podcast. I get a fair bit of flack, as you probably imagine. I get a fair bit of flack. All you ever do is moan about demolition and construction. You must hate it. No, if I hated it, I'd go and do something else. The reason that I point out the industry's shortcomings, be it health and safety, mental health awareness, gender inequality, and all of those things, the reason I point them out is because we could be better, and it's there. I'm not saying, in order for the demolition and construction industry to truly embrace the future, we need to start flying through the air. No, what I'm saying is, just when you've had a service from a subcontractor and you're satisfied with that service, pay him what you owe him. Now, not hold off for 90 days and then say, you see, we would have paid, but your invoice is in the wrong format. We prefer to have the invoice number first and the date second. Could you amend that? So you amend it and you send it back, and they say, you've spelled our name wrong. We are Fred Blogs Limited, but we do limited as LTD, not LIMITED. So could you amend it? Fuck off. Just pay your bill. You've got my sort code. You've got my account number. You've got the account name. Just pay what you owe. It's not hard. Why resist? Grasp it with both hands. That's my take on it. That is my take on it. And I do wonder. I mean, I came into this industry, and I'm sure there's still an element of this. I came into this industry when you had people that had personal assistants and secretaries. And I remember being in it was a construction company, it wasn't a demolition company, where they'd received a fax. That's how old I am. They'd received a fax. And the fax was a little bit blurry, wasn't particularly good. So the secretary had rewritten it, typed it, printed it off, and then presented it to her boss, because he didn't really do well with the fax machine. I also know of at least one demolition company that to this day, the emails sent to the boss of that company are basically automatically forwarded to his secretary, who prints them off. It's called electronic mail. Just in case you've overlooked that, the E in email, electronic mail. It's not piece of paper. It's are you really? Are you really? And listen, I've mentioned this before. I've got a couple of people now, even to this day, who will send me an email and then phone me to see if I've got it. Yeah, because guess what? Email works. It's worked for 20 years, people. You don't need to phone me up. Goodness sake. Andy Develon, do you remember the old card machine in shops? Put your card on it with the carbon paper. How long ago did they disappear? I did remarkably well with one of those. I think, what is that thing where statute of limitation? I don't even know if the UK has a statute of limitation where legal wrongdoing expires after a certain period. Okay, so I wasn't married, so this was pre-1990. But me and my wife were living in sin. Oh, the sin that was going. There was no sin, but we were living together. Okay, so we decided, having got a new boxer dog puppy who was a little free and easy with peeing in the house, we decided we needed one of the. Remember the Vax vacuum cleaner, or wet and dry vacuum cleaner? I'm sure they probably still exist, but we decided we needed one of those to keep the carpet clean. Shop in Sutton, in Surrey. It's now, well, it's long since gone, but it used to be called Shinner's. It then became Alders. So we went to Alders to find this Vax vacuum cleaner. And I can tell you now, even back in the day, pre-1990, it was about 200 quid. It was pricey. So I've got the one that I want. Took it to the counter, gave the woman my card, and you sometimes you go into a shop and they're serving you, but they're not actually even looking at you. So she was talking to her colleague. Oh, what are you doing on Friday night? Oh, yeah, you're going out with so and so. Yeah, he's a bit tasty, and all that kind of thing. So she's done the thing, put the card in the machine, put the carbon paper on top, did the slidey thing, and then gave me back the whole thing because she was chatting. Printed my receipt, gave me my receipt, and I said to my then girlfriend, now wife, run, run. And we did. She had basically charged us nothing, because the only record of that transaction ever having taken place was now in my possession. Yeah. I wish they'd bring them back. I'd like a few free vacuum cleaners. Jim Turner says, I put a post on LinkedIn the other day about training and apprenticeships. One of my connections commented about a few reasons why it doesn't happen. So I came back with a counter argument, ideas. His answer to my counter argument was, that's far too sensible, and that's our problem. The no sense or joined up thinking anymore. You're right. You're right. Listen. We've had it mentioned today with Garvin and his talk of tier 3 machines. If we could wind the clock back, and yes, we would have to pay for the privilege because, we would need to help with the environmental cleanup and everything else. We could wind the clock back and say, okay, we'll take a less complex machine, but the machine will be cheaper, but we will contribute to the safeguarding of the environment. I think most people in the industry would go, yeah, please. I think if you went to pretty much any site in the country and said, in an ideal world, what would you be looking for in a fellow worker? And how would you test that worker? It'd be somebody, somebody that can demonstrate a bit of common sense, someone that's willing to learn, someone that's willing to be here on time every day, all day, every day. And we'll knock off the rough edges. We don't need a bit of plastic. Just deliver us somebody with a bit of nous and a bit of commitment to the job, a bit of work ethic. That would be good, and then we'll take care of the rest. Not, he might be as daft as a brush. He might never have shown up for work on time, but he's got a bit of plastic, so he'll do. At no point is that ever going to happen. All of these things, well, most of these things, really, really easy to fix if somebody would just take the bloody time to do it. Peter says, think about AI. In reality, we've had it for years. They've gradually had to introduce it, or it would have blown people's minds. And yet, when you actually start to get to grips with it, it does make life an awful lot easier. It really, some bits of it do. And I think one of the things that we're missing with the whole AI discussion is I don't want AI to write this show. I don't want AI to perform this show, although it will probably do both of those things better than me anyway. But I don't want that. What I want it to do is to lurk in the background and do things like, when I edit this video, the video resulting of my morning monologue, go through, check it, where I've gone, or where I've said the same thing twice because I fucked it up the first time. Take that out, would you? AI does that. I do that on a daily basis. So, rather than me sitting here and editing my morning monologue for an hour, it now takes about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. If I've had a really bad day, 5 minutes. But as a result, I've now got 55 minutes to spend doing stuff that I want to do, that I'm better at than an AI. Andy Thornton says, I know a very high up executive, millionaire plus, who has an iPad which he uses for everything. Everyone else's PC. I was given the role of helping him when things changed in processes. Found out that he had a stylus on it with a notepad and used to only handwrite into it. Never used any other thing it could do. I'm guilty of that myself. I mean, there's a Mac computer sat in front of me here. I can't remember what chip it is, but it's a powerful one. Basically, for about an hour and a half a day, it's a broadcasting system. For the rest of the time, it's a typewriter. There's so much. There is so much that this machine could do, and it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a typewriter. Dan, still watching Chernobyl, are you? That program opens your eyes. It really does. Some fantastic acting as well. Why haven't firms signed up to buy or locally lease land to plant trees on to offset their carbon footprint? Then in the future, those trees can be used in UK manufacturing, and so the cycle continues. There's a very good reason for that, Jim, because that requires thought. The thing that I find astonishing about the industry's reluctance to change is that it is inevitable. It will get us. Things like net zero. It will be forced upon us. Make no bones about it. It might not be by 2050. There might be, well, there almost certainly will be a transition period, but it will come. It will come. It has to come. Now, you've got two options with something like that. You can fight it. You can dig your heels in and say, nope, definitely not. I want diesel machines until the day I die. Sod you with your electric and your hydrogen. I want no part of it. Or, bearing in mind the inevitability of the outcome, you could become one of the early adopters so that by the time that change does actually happen, you've already knocked off the rough edges. You've done the learning curve. Your learning curve was long and slowly increasing. For those that sit on their hands and wait until the government says, that's it, diesel's done, their learning curve won't even be a curve. It'll be a vertical line. We know what's happening. We know what's happening. And yet we try not to do what we need to do. Now we've had that one. Dan on Chernobyl again. The challenges they encountered were phenomenal, and yet they put people into harm's way. Do we not do that? Without wishing to be all profound. The profound card has already been played by Chris Ford this morning. But do we not do that? I said in that item there, and this is one of the constant frustrations for me, is we have data, okay? We have data that will tell us year on year what things hurt, injure, maim, kill our workers. And we all know them. The biggest killer, asbestos, but we still send people to deal with it. We still accept asbestos surveys that were written by somebody driving past the site who guessed at what was in there. The second biggest killer is going to be falls from height. We know that. We have data for decades. If you work at height, there is always a chance that you will fall. And if you do fall, you're going to be, as my dad would describe it, brown bread. Okay? We know that. So rather than taking that data, much like your equipment manufacturers take telematic data and tweak their machines accordingly, rather than taking that, saying, we've got an issue here, fellas. We're killing people on a maybe 30 or 40 people a year, and they're falling from height. How about if we stop sending people to work at height? How about if we devise a system that requires nobody to work at height? Do you think that might cure the deaths from falling from height? I'll save you doing the maths. Yes, it fucking would. Clearly. The second biggest killer, well, the third after asbestos and after falls from height, is people being struck by equipment. Keep them apart. There. And there's your revolution right there. Have men and women over there, have machines over there, problem solved. Nope. Here, Mark, frictionless change. Listen, I'm not daft enough to believe that it would be frictionless, but at least take a look. At least take a look. Peter says, what would you have done differently with the tools they had at the time, Dan? Unfortunately, with that one, we're back on Chernobyl again. I think, having watched the program, there is a thing that I used to believe it was kind of it was a sort of thing that communist countries did, that they didn't come clean lest they look bad to the rest of the world. Chernobyl was greeted with meltdown? No. Soviet engineering? No. Nothing to see here, apart from the fucking mushroom cloud that was heading towards Ukraine. And I always believed that was, as I say, it was a Chinese, a Russian, a North Korean thing. We're exactly the bleeding same. America, if anything, is even worse. They will lie to your face and tell you that what you've seen with your own eyes was wrong. Your eyes apparently lied to you. Garvin just said, was at Mat Expo yesterday. Only a handful of electric machines. Mat Expo is up in Finland, isn't it? Fairly sure it's in Finland. Where I would have expected better. Or more. I remain to be convinced that electric machines are actually better fundamentally. But you would have thought, up in Scandinavia, you'd have thought they'd have been chomping at the bit with all things electric. Were they not? I'm fairly sure Lecatech were there. Oh, hang on a minute. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting it. It was Belgium. Yeah, well, Belgium's the same. It's not even Belgium. The Belgians and the Dutch are they are right at it, aren't they? Aren't they? I thought. Yeah, weird. Weird. Anyway, people, that will probably do us. It's the end of an era tomorrow. That makes it sound way more grand than it's going to be. Tomorrow is going to be show number 999, which you all know. So come Monday, this show won't look. I mean, this bit will, obviously, you know, the bit with my massive head and hat and things, that will look the same. But all the various elements are going to change. Looking forward to showing it to you. And also looking forward to bringing you, I think we're up to about 3,500 words on the story of the Breakfast Show. And most of you, if not all of you, actually get a mention in dispatches because you've all been a fundamental part of that. Communists are daft enough to think they don't ordinarily look bad to the rest of the world, even without a disaster. True enough. Am I changing my background? I am not changing my background. Well, I say I'm not changing my background. I'm not changing my background now because I can't get at it. I wish I could show it to you. Like I've got there's a table. Let me take this out of the way so you can actually see my hands. There's a table just here that's got a bunch of stuff on it, including my my plaque there from Gary Muirhead, which declares that I am the Lord of live streaming. But behind this chair is a great big pile of stuff to give away, including, bear with, oh bloody hell, come on, including, see that, that's a goodie box. Let me do it the right way up. It'll make much more sense. There you are. It's a Caterpillar goodie box, and there's a bunch of that behind me. And I've also been told apparently there is there's a bunch of stuff on its way, I should say, from Komatsu as well. No idea whether Komatsu's stuff will arrive in time for Monday. But in order for me to change that background, I'd need to take my life in my hands and climb over stuff that I'm planning to give away. So I've decided the easy way to do it is I'll give everything away, literally strip this office back to its bare bones before we start again, and then I can worry about what the background looks. Dan saying, "Oh, I want that box." I bet you do. As I say, I said this yesterday, there's a hat in there. I'll show it to you on Monday. There's a hat in there that I would really, really prefer to keep. But I am committed to giving it away. So will you be wearing a party hat for your 1000th show? There's a thought. I might dig out the horse head again. If you were here, you'll remember. I may do that. But yeah, it's what's your emergency breakfast show reaching 1000th show? No idea. So yes, yeah, as I say, tomorrow, tune in. I would strongly recommend that you record. You don't need to; it'll be on the internet. But record tomorrow because there will be a time when you think back. Oh yeah, do you remember that old intro? That was nice. Not sure I like this newfangled one because we're not good at changing construction. And then there'll be a time, probably not long after that, where you go, how did that old one sound? Prefer this new one. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. No hats for Dan, says Andy Dolphin. Well, you'll have to beat him. You'll have to beat him. Go back 999 message. Dan, if that is a code, I'm not understanding it. And I do need, it's taken me a while to figure out what, I misread it. Garvin over on Mostly Diggers said, Al G says says hi rather. I could have sworn, I only glanced at it, that he was saying Ali G says hi. And I was thinking, a fictional character says hi? I don't get it. No, Al Grierson. Al Grierson was at Mac Expo yesterday, which is why I should have known that it was in bloody Belgium, not Finland. Thank you very much indeed for that, Garvin. Hope you had a good time. A little disappointed about the lack of electric machines. Anywho, people, go and have a fine and splendid day. I am, just very quickly before I go, I am speaking to Andy Thornton of this parish about the possibility of doing a regular show, an evening show, on all things related to mental health. You know, there are some that wait and sit on their hands and only talk about it once a year, like World Suicide Prevention Day yesterday. We're going to do it on a regular basis. That's the discussion anyway. The discussion will continue. I'll keep you posted, but hopefully we may even get one of those out this month. Fingers crossed. Anywho, people, go and have a good day. Be nice to each other. The world needs it right now. See you soon.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.